cooking up chicken and rice. It's my meat seasoning. The meat can be tender. A little dab of pepper.
Meet James.
That's where I sleep at.
James has been living in the woods for 3 years.
That's the swamp. Home sweet home.
How did James get here? James is a sex offender. Can I ask you what your offense was?
Attempt to have sex with a minor.
Do you consider yourself to be a safe person?
Yeah, I'm safe.
Like, would kids be safe around you?
Yeah, I am, yeah. Really well.
How did you end up here?
When I got out of prison, I had a choice. Go back to prison or come out here. But now, it's a lot of people.
Buried in the woods of Central Florida is a dark place filled with desperate men and little hope.
We have to live out here in the leper colony. We're not allowed to live among the normal folk.
Over 700,000 sex offenders live in America. They fill us with fear. What should we know about sex offenders? What do they want us to know about themselves? And where do they live once they're released from prison? They are America's pariahs, pushed into the shadows. America, it can be inspiring and beautiful. It can also be dark and ugly. It's so many things, but it's ours. It's our America. We could have gone anywhere in America to tell this story, but we chose Florida. The Sunshine State attracts not only families coming on vacation, but also vast numbers of sex offenders. More than 50,000 of them live in Florida, and every month dozens more are released from prison. Hey guys.
Hi.
How you doing?
Hi.
Like any parent or future parent, I wanted to know where they go and how law enforcement kept track of them all. I was about to learn it was a huge job. Even the U.S. Marshals get called in when one of these men turn up missing.
He actually moved, didn't notify us that he moved. He actually gave us a fake address.
We got a crime line tip. It says that he's hiding at 207, the main target house. We have a warrant for his arrest, and we're gonna go find him.
Do you think he's reoffending?
That would be the $1 million question.
Come to the door.
Step out here.
Come on out. Come on out right now.
Step out now.
It's 7 in the morning, and they believe that a man who has not registered is staying here. This is a game of cat and mouse. Offenders who don't want to be found, law enforcement tasked to find them.
We're with the Sexual Offender Surveillance Squad, and you have a warrant for your arrest.
Well, what charge?
You're skipping back and forth between Orange County and Lake County, and then you're hiding out down here.
He is supposed to register on the sex offender list semi-annually, and apparently he has not been registering, so in comes law enforcement, and he's going back to jail.
Listen, I've got to search you. I need you to lean up. I cannot search you leaning down. Just relax.
This is what it looks like on the side of the law, doing whatever it takes to keep sex offenders from committing new crimes. Even a seemingly small infraction can send a sex offender back to prison. This man had failed to register a change of address. It sounds like a minor slip-up, but the marshals see it differently. What kinds of dangers could someone like this pose?
To me, a guy that's staying off the radar probably has a higher chance of reoffending than someone who's in compliance. The ones that deliberately slip off the radar and surface somewhere where no one knows who they are or what they're up to or who they're staying with are probably doing it for a reason.
The marshals told me their workload is growing, along with the number of sex offenders across the country. The crimes are many. From exhibitionism to rape, they all appear on the same list. the sex offender registry. We paste the offenders' faces on the internet and pass laws that crowd them into ever-shrinking pockets of real estate. It makes us feel safer. But is it really working? It's a complicated problem, and to understand it, I had to go into their world.
Yeah, the cost is $500 a month. It's $1,250 in advance.
Randy Young deals in real estate.
Would you like that account now? Okay, hold on, please. Another call.
He's an entrepreneur in a specialized market. He finds housing for people no one wants living in their neighborhoods.
The last time I counted, I got 89 phone calls in one day. That's from the prisons, from the probation, from the families, from clergymen, from public defenders. Just goes on and on.
Every day, another call. Another sex offender getting out of prison, looking for a home. Randy is constantly on the lookout for new rental properties.
And I try not to saturate a neighborhood, and we have 3 or 4 houses in the last neighborhood, so here's a new frontier for me.
A self-designed computer program shows him where to look.
Anything inside of a circle is taboo.
Yellow circles, pink circles, white circles. It's a colorful quilt of protective zones around playgrounds, schools, parks, places where children congregate and sex offenders are forbidden to live. Randy looks for the spaces in between, which can be tough. In some states like Florida, zones can reach 2,500 feet in every direction.
We're right on the fringe of a daycare, and I'm going to zoom in on that to see just how close we are.
So it's this street is
Yes.
the dividing line.
Yes, that doesn't work, but this side of the street should be fine. If it's 1 foot over the line, that's all we need.
Once he's identified a legal pocket of real estate, Randy starts looking for potential new housing. He's already found homes for 500 sex offenders.
It looks at least a 3-bedroom, 1 bathroom, so it fits the mold.
So this neighborhood may soon get a number of sex offenders living
But it
here.
already has some.
Randy does this work at his own risk. He tells me he's gotten death threats. People do not want sex offenders in their neighborhoods, and they want Randy to stop. But Randy knows that without his help, many of these men will have no place to live. And he cares because he was once in their shoes. Randy is a sex offender. In 2003, Randy encouraged a 19-year-old female to perform oral sex on a 14-year-old boy while he watched. Randy spent 10 months in jail. How did your sex offender past play into what you do now?
I did commit a crime, but my 70, 80-year-old mother did not. She was put through a real hell trying to find me a place. She drove me to a crack-infested hotel with people sleeping on the sidewalks and bugs crawling on them. I mean, a really bad place. I felt bad that my mother even had to go into that part of town, let alone her to see me being rejected from there. I really started this business to try and ease that pain for the families of sex offenders.
Though he wears the same label, Randy has his own code. He won't accept anyone he thinks may reoffend.
What's that new guy's name? I'm looking for people coming in almost with their tail between their legs, ready to do anything to stay out of prison. If you're not ready, then you're coming to the wrong place. I'm not the person to mess with. I'm rough and tough, and I don't put up with any tomfoolery.
It's a strange view into a shadowy world. Randy's business is my way in. Access to people I probably would never meet. Desperate men who hope to start their lives over again. A man has just arrived from prison today to Randy's house. Originally, he had agreed to allow us to shoot him, but he decided that he didn't want to be filmed because he, at some point, wants to try to get back to a normal life. So all we can do is shoot him from the back of the head. This is kind of what we've been dealing with. These are condemned members of society, and it's understandable that they wouldn't want their faces shown on television because they're already considered the ultimate pariahs.
Everyone is watching you, and you never know if anyone is trying to do you in. You have to realize that you're not free. You are still in prison, and if you think that you're not, you're a fool.
Randy's new tenant, a man we'll call John, served 17 months for traveling with intent to have sex with an underage girl. Now he gets a tough dose of reality from one sex offender to another.
How to deal with children. Such a tough thing, because you're going to run into them. I don't think that you're overly attracted to children, but you cannot have any contact with them. Just don't look their way at all. I'm really taking a big chance. You could end it for everybody by damaging another person. And mess with me and I'll put you back. I'll do anything I can to put you back. I mean, anything I can. If I think you're a danger, I will do anything. I will testify against you. I don't care, period. You got any questions?
No.
Most of Randy's homes are in modest neighborhoods within walking distance to services.
On this highway is about everything that you need. A Home Depot, all kinds of fast food. And some of the big restaurants will hire a sex offender. So this is home sweet home. Hey.
As one of Randy's tenants, John will share a house with 2 other sex offenders. They know full well what kind of reception the world has to offer men like him. Has it been hard to live with this label?
Everybody thinks you're like the cancer of society. They don't want to have anything to do with you. Once they see you're a sex offender, you're just a boogeyman.
Group houses are a way for Randy to make more money and for sex offenders to find homes. But as I look around, I realize this is a neighborhood where families live. Okay, I just want to show you how close we are to where children live. Right across the street. The protective zones only apply to places where large groups of children congregate, not to a single home with a couple of kids. I talked to the neighbor who doesn't want to be on camera, but he said that a year ago when Randy first took possession of the house, he was very, very apprehensive and concerned, but it's been almost a year, and he says, I haven't had any problems, so he seems to be okay with it for now. It's hard to wrap your mind around. 3 sex offenders living in a neighborhood where children live right next door and across the street. But Randy has a good reason for grouping these men together. They're easier to watch.
The people that I've dealt with, many of them have done really horrible, horrible things. They need to be monitored. I want them monitored. Probation is going to be in that neighborhood. For each offender, you have to visit them at least twice a month. So if you have 4 in the house, that means that there's going to be 8 visits.
Now you're living in a house with all sex offenders. What's that like for you? You're one of these guys now.
I'm just still in a state of shock, almost a state of denial that, I am that type of person. I'm not ready to say that that's what I am, because I know inside that's not.
Can you tell us how it happened?
Online on an 18 and above website, and I was led to believe that she was 18 years old. She turned 17 a week after I got arrested.
How old are you?
At the time, I was 41.
Do you think there's a worse label in this country than sex offender?
No, that's got to rank right up there at the top. I mean, when people say sex offender, they think child molester. Kids don't do nothing for me. I like ladies. I'm not a child molester. I'm not a sex offender. I did something stupid. I've had friends disown me. Trust is something you take a lifetime to build up, and it only takes one instant to wipe it all away. So, I disappointed everybody, including myself.
John's future has begun. After spending 17 months in prison, he has a hard road ahead, living as one of society's most feared. But at least for now, he has a home. Randy's about to show me the people who fell off everyone's map. Hidden away in the middle of the woods is a place of last resort for some 30 sex offenders, people who can't afford to live in Randy's homes.
So you see, it's a nice little pond. However, it's infested with snakes.
Here in the sweltering heat of Florida, they live without power or running water. It's basically a swamp, but it's over 1,000 feet from where children congregate, and that makes it a legal residence for sex offenders. This is really wild. We're in the middle of the woods, and I'm seeing tent after tent. I'm seeing people across the pond over here in other tents, and everyone in this vicinity is a sex offender.
The fact is that being this far away is kind of good. You know, they're far from children.
This is obviously a very sensitive issue, but we're going to try and see if we can get people to talk to us. Estimates say that there are hundreds of sex offenders living in the woods throughout the state of Florida. And I must tell you that this, as you can see, is pretty vile. You can't really smell what it's like, but you have to trust me on the fact that the guys out here are really living like animals. I mean, there's no water, there's no electricity, you know, there's human feces all over the place. And there are a lot of people who say that this is how they should be living. "36-year-old Steve has been living in a tent in the woods of Central Florida for the last 2 years.
I deal with it by looking at it as a camping trip, just a really long one.
He keeps to himself. It's rough in the woods, especially in the heat of summer when tempers can flare.
I can count on maybe one hand the number of people that I actually talk to. Sometimes people get into arguments, people drink, it escalates into violence, it happens.
Steve had served nearly 6 years for his crime. He agreed to share his story. The bugs are bad out here.
Yeah.
The guy out there said that the bugs have bones.
Yes, they do. Sometimes when you smack them, you feel them crunch.
I was surprised to find Steve had company. His 23-year-old wife, Christina. You got married after you got out of prison,
Yes.
but you have to sleep here.
Yes.
How does that work?
It's trying at best sometimes.
How'd you get into this mess?
What, being on probation?
Nope. How'd you get arrested?
When I was living in Jacksonville with a girlfriend of mine, she had 2 daughters, ages 6 and 10, and I molested them. Over the course of about 1.5 years, they performed oral sex on me periodically. It came to light with some family members, and police were involved. A warrant was issued. I turned myself in. And that's about the size of it, really.
I mean, it's very difficult to hear about the crime, because it is vile. And I just want to understand that you knew it was wrong. How did it happen?
I can't really say that I've really come up with a clear answer. I don't think it was a desire to have sex with a small child. If I had to, I would just say it was ease of opportunity for
Were you on
sexual
drugs?
gratification.
Were you drunk?
No, to be honest with you, no. I can't blame it on the alcohol or the drugs or anything like that. I mean, there was a lot of partying going on in my life at that time, but I can't say that there were any of the times where anything actually happened where I was intoxicated.
You knew what you were doing.
Yeah.
What Steve had just admitted, the things he had done, I couldn't understand them, or how his wife stood by him.
I've been with a lot of bad guys in my life, and he's the first one that has made me feel like I'm somebody, like I'm a woman, like I'm me. And all that won me completely.
Christina chose to let a sex offender into her life, but she wasn't alone. She had a 2.5-year-old daughter.
Do you trust your husband around your kid?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I do. At first, I didn't. What I said to him was, if you ever do anything to my kid, I'll kill you. I said, I'm giving you this chance. Respect me, respect my kid. And he's gone above and beyond for me. He's proved his trust to me, and there's nothing more to judge.
I know a lot of times victims in these types of cases, they feel like it's their fault, like they did something wrong. The blame falls solely on the perpetrator. We're adults. We have mature thinking that children don't. And we're the ones to blame for it. I mean, I accept that blame.
Accepting the blame and the punishment that comes with it means Steve lives a kind of double life. Because the house he and Christina share is within 1,000 feet of an elementary school, Steve can't sleep there. His legal address is the woods. And like many sex offenders, he has a curfew of 10 p.m. At 6 in the morning, he's allowed to go home.
I don't like being separated from my family, but I understand it's just how it has to be for right now. And I've kind of accepted that. Being a sex offender, coming out on the street and finding a woman that is a mother, it definitely reasserts your faith in humankind and your faith in yourself as well. If you have somebody that's there to support you, it's easier for you to support yourself. Everything I love is right here. I go out there and I go to sleep and I get up and I come home to my family.
In this half of his life, Steve is a family man. He and Christina have a 7-month-old baby. But his other life as a sex offender is never very far away. He goes to therapy each week.
It helps you keep on track. You know, that a lot of us realize that what we did was wrong, we made a mistake, we did something we shouldn't have done, and we paid for our crime. We're just people that are just trying to pick up the pieces of our lives.
Do you think you're a dangerous person? Do you think you're dangerous around children?
I'm more dangerous to myself than I am to somebody's child. I made a vow when I was in prison wholeheartedly that if I ever found myself in a situation where I couldn't control myself from reoffending, I'd kill myself first. And I meant it.
Steve's word and commitment to himself are not enough for the law. To protect other children, he is bound by the rules that keep him living in the woods. Steve thinks these rules are useless.
A lot of these laws are put into place to keep tabs on us, to prevent us from reoffending. It's what they call a feel-good law. It doesn't really serve any purpose other than to give the public the illusion of safety. You know, and I've said it before and I'll say it 1,000 times again, no law that's in place, no law that can be put into place will ever prevent somebody from reoffending if they choose to reoffend. It's impossible. Short of keeping us in prison for the rest of our lives, that's the only surefire remedy to make sure that there's never a reoffense.
Fundamentally, I do believe that people can change, and I want to believe that people can change. But at the same time, I can't help but ask myself the question of, would I want to take that risk with my own kids? Like, as much as I do believe that Steve wants to change, would I want my daughters to live next to him? I don't know if I could say yes. It was becoming clear, the conundrum. Having sex offenders next door makes all of us uncomfortable. But squeezing them out of our neighborhoods and into homeless communities has its own risk.
For a lot of these guys who aren't fortunate enough to have the situation that I have, where I have some place where I can go take a hot shower every day and eat a hot meal and be with my wife and my son, you know, there's not a lot of hope for them.
The marshals had told me homeless sex offenders were the hardest to keep track of. With no homes and no hope, they sometimes gave up trying to follow the laws and just disappeared. It's an unintended effect of some of the toughest residency restrictions in the country. In Florida, those laws can be traced back to the story of one little girl.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We're so excited to be here today to talk to you guys about staying safe.
Lauren Book and her partner Tara run a program for school children in Florida to help protect them from sex offenders. Lauren herself is a victim. As a child, she was molested by someone she should have been able to trust, her nanny. After meeting many offenders, I was now reminded of the cost of their crimes.
How did it all begin?
The grooming process started with something so benign as extra cookies for dessert, always getting the front seat. At 10 years old, that's a really big deal. And then it goes into, a touch, and then a touch that's a little bit longer, and then a hug that's a little bit longer. And then when she noticed and she realized, well, she's not telling her parents anything, it was very sick and twisted, and what you can do to a 10-year-old. As a kid, you just want somebody who's there and who loves you. And that's how she was able to take and manipulate and use those things against me, and that's what predators are so good at.
Like many children, Lauren suffered in silence, terrified by her abuser into believing that something bad would happen to her family if she didn't keep quiet.
Where would this happen, Lauren? Because you had 2 siblings.
Closets, bathrooms, mom and dad were at work, or mom and dad were doing whatever. It would happen anywhere she wanted it. There was no.
What is it?
Sex. It was, sex. She would orally copulate me. She would make me orally copulate her. She would use different objects on me.
10 years old?
10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. After such a long time, you don't know how to get out of it. You don't know how to stop it because it is so much bigger than who and what you are.
How can you prevent something like this when the abuser is no stranger? As many as 90% of these crimes are committed by someone a child already knows. Lauren tries to get the kids to see beyond their natural instincts of who is safe and who is not.
I want you to think with your eyes closed what a stranger looks like. Okay, open your eyes. Now, draw on your paper what that stranger looks like. What's your stranger doing? Spying. Spying, okay. What's your stranger doing? Stealing kids. Stealing kids.
You look at the kids around here and they see no evil. They think everybody they know are their friends or people that they can turn to and talk to and hug, and that's what's scary. They're looking for people who are wearing masks, who have guns, and who are robbing people. That's who they think bad people are, and you and I both know that that's not what sex offenders look like.
After her ordeal, Lauren and her father started a crusade to protect children. They fought for tougher restrictions for sex offenders. They got the protective zone, the space between where sex offenders live and children congregate, more than doubled.
What do you think about the laws pertaining to sex offenders?
You're killing children. You're killing their souls. And I think that those people should not be allowed to have that opportunity again. There will never be enough distance between an offender and one of my kids.
After only 1 week here in Florida, I knew there was nothing simple about this story. Not the laws, not the emotions, not the facts. The moment a sex offender steps out of prison, they step into a society that doesn't want them in the deepest way. Every year, over 1,000 sex offenders are released in Florida. After months of writing letters to inmates, one offender agreed to let us follow him on his first days out. He gets out tomorrow. He has no idea where he is going to end up because of the strict residency restrictions. He's going to come out into a world where he is considered the worst of the worst. His name is Ryan. When he was 18, he had consensual sex with 2 girls aged 13 and 14. Ryan was arrested and sent to prison for 4 years. He came out labeled a sex offender. Less than 3 months after his release, Ryan fooled around with another 14-year-old. He was now 22. He was sentenced to another 8 years.
Hey Ryan, how are you?
How you doing?
I'm Lisa, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us.
You're welcome.
I guess we're going into this office. We wrote to a lot of people in prison. And a lot of people were afraid of being stigmatized even more. Why did you want to do this, knowing that a lot of people are going to see this?
Changes need to be made on the way our restrictions are made. I don't think that we should be all lumped together in one group. What I did was bad, but I don't think it can be bad as what some other people do. You know, you see on the news, 30-year-olds going, kidnapping and raping a 4-year-old. You know, that's bad. Even I look at that and it's just like, no, that's not right.
Do you think you're attracted to 14-year-olds, though? I mean, I think that's the concern. These girls are technically considered children. They're underage minors.
A sex offense is an addiction. It's a problem people have. A lot of people won't admit it. I finally admitted it about 3 weeks ago. It's taken me that long to finally admit, I have a problem, and I want to correct myself on that problem.
Should parents be afraid of you?
It's a nasty label. The public perception of it is basically we're the bottom of the earth, we're to be walked on. I just want people to see that not all of us are bad. There's some of us that do want to do good, do want to change. I want to be out there and say, you know what? He made mistakes, he's got a bad label, but he's doing good. He's really trying to be a productive member of society.
After nearly 7 years, Ryan leaves prison behind. Is he ready? Will he be able to navigate the world of restrictions waiting for him on the outside? Ryan's first big hurdle out of prison will be finding a place to live. Because children sometimes visit his parents' house, staying with them is not an option. With nowhere else to go, Ryan is homeless. The local probation office sent him to a motel on the outskirts of town where he could pitch a tent. It's a tough way to start over, but Ryan is undaunted.
You can throw whatever you want to throw at me. I'm determined to change. I'm determined to be the better person. I don't want somebody to look at me 30 years from now saying, hey, all he was ever good for was being a sex offender.
It's Ryan's first night out. The roof over his head is a tent, and now he's a sex offender under surveillance.
Today, they've put my ankle monitor on me, and got my trusty little box right here. Got to make sure that box stays 20 feet with me. Can't go past 20 feet. Go past 20 feet, monitor beeps and I get in trouble. This is a challenge, but just a matter of walking that very thin line right now. One small gust of wind can blow me over and put me right back into a place I don't want to be.
After 7 years of prison, Ryan is back in the same town he committed his last crime. Same town, same temptations. Almost immediately, he starts writing down where we go in a logbook for his probation officer.
How important is it for you to remain really diligent with this?
They will look for the slightest thing, to send somebody back to prison.
What are some of the places you know you want to avoid?
I'd like to try to avoid them all. I mean, that's where I met the second victim of my case. So if I can condition myself to stay away from those places, I think that I've improved my chances to stay out.
We make a stop at the beach. It's a long way from prison and Ryan's first real taste of freedom.
When I started this journey, I was scared because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I have a good chance to survive now. That's a good feeling.
But Ryan's new life might be harder than he imagined. He has entered a world full of landmines.
Did the monitor, what happened? Did it just buzz?
It's going off, giving me a warning to go outside. It also says home. Not past my curfew. I'm in my area that I'm allowed to be in, so I don't know why it needs to be going off.
Will someone call you, or what happens?
I don't know, because this thing is confusing. It's still giving me this warning. I can't clear it.
What's happening, Ryan?
I'm going to try to clear it.
Ryan?
Okay. Everything's back to normal, so we're okay for now.
That kind of scare you?
Yeah, because I don't know how to work this, and I don't want them coming after me and saying that I was someplace I wasn't supposed to be.
The answer to the mysterious beeping comes soon. The next morning at Ryan's probation office. Cameras were not allowed inside.
Ryan is currently finding out all of the conditions of his probation, all the things that he can and cannot do for the next 15 months, and if he violates any of the conditions, he could get sent back to prison immediately.
The hours go by, and Ryan still doesn't come out. Something doesn't seem right.
We have a bit of a situation here. Today was the day that he came to DOC to get all of his instructions, and they turn around and just send him right back to jail.
Ryan had been arrested.
Ryan has been out of prison for 24 hours, and aside from the time that he was actually in his tent on the property of that motel, he was either with us or with his parents. We never left the county. He went home and took a shower and had a meal and then went right back to his tent. So we are completely befuddled as to why he was sent back to jail. Ryan, can you just tell us what they told you you did wrong?
Well, they said that I violated my terms of conditional release by going to my parents' house and also by going to the beach.
The beach. This was a place where you could find children. The conditions of Ryan's release made it illegal for him to go there, and his parents' house had been declared off limits until probation could verify if children were present in the home.
What are you thinking right now?
Right now, it's frustrating to me. They expected me from 7 years in prison to come out and basically not do anything. Not see my family, not go anywhere. I think I'll probably be staying in here for a little bit.
I find out later that Ryan would have to spend the next few months behind bars, waiting for the parole commission to decide his fate. If he were found in violation, they could send him back to prison for 12 months.
It hasn't really hit me, I guess, that I've been released from prison and was out for a few days and I'm back in jail. It seems like a distant memory, almost.
It's always been a little quiet, and he's still quiet. But that's just part of his personality.
His father didn't want to be on camera, But after Ryan was arrested, he shared with me the heartbreak of seeing his son back behind bars.
It's a never-ending sentence. For the remainder of his life, he's going to be labeled as a sex offender. You'll never be able to get away from it. I am bitter over this whole thing. I mean, they're trying their darndest to destroy my son's life.
Did Ryan really deserve more time in prison? Was it possible the hearing commission would find in his favor and release him? Ryan had his doubts.
Instead of trying to see what really happened, they just felt, well, you know what, he's a threat. He's not going to listen to the rules. Let's just go ahead and try to send him back to prison and just, be done with him. And I just kind of feel like they're trying to pawn me off back into the system.
Maybe Ryan was right. No law enforcement official wanted to be perceived as soft on sex offenders. If they let the wrong person walk, the outcome could be our worst fear. Everybody wants to do the right thing. If there is a reoffense, someone will suffer, and that someone is someone's child, and so nobody wants to risk that. We all want the problem to go away. We all want there to be no offenders and no victims. We all want to feel safe. But how? I had now spent time in a world few people want to see, talking to men most of us don't want to hear from. And I was left wondering, despite our best efforts, is what we're doing really working? With over 700,000 Americans on the sex offender registry and growing, we can't hide the problem or hide from it.